Welcome into the Mike Herndon Show, Week 14. I am Mike Herndon. I'm joined, as usual, by Easton, Director of Published Content for BroadwaySportsMedia.com, which is, of course, the website that brings you this show, as well as many other great Nashville sports content, podcasts, YouTube shows, articles, all of the above.
Yeah.
There's not a lot to talk about Titans-wise this week. Very quiet week. No big deals going on.
Got to spin a yarn or two. I'm gonna have to come up with a crazy narrative like, will the Titans fire Jon Robinson? Some really harebrained ideas, really out in left field this week.
Yeah. So obviously we'll get to some of the Jon Robinson talk after the break in the paid portion of this show. So if you want to hear that and you're not already a subscriber, subscribe. Get behind the paywall and hear our discussions.
And why would you want to just hear about the film review from this past week's game?
Oh,
like it's such a masochist. No, it's going to be miserable, and then you're going to be cut off if you're not an insider, and you're not going to get any of the somewhat optimistic or interesting discussion. So, I mean, you can do that if you want, but it's really weird.
Yeah, if that's all you're here for, I mean, you should just, go outside and kick yourself in the nuts or whatever you want to do for the next half hour, and you'll get the same experience. So,
All right, so we do have a little bit of film to break down, like Mike said, from this past week's game. Not as much as usual, just because about half of the game was a wash. It feels like the Buffalo week where we don't have a ton of real reps with starters to pick from, but we do have a handful of things to look at and discuss from a film perspective. So in our film room segment here at the top, we're going to start, Mike. You wanted to look at the fact that the Titans, in terms of pass rush this past week, they are officially MIA. And I saw you tweet, please return to Mike Vrabel if found.
It was the second straight bad performance because they were not very good against Cincinnati either. But this one was considerably worse. And look, like I totally get Eagles' offensive line is the best in the NFL. They are really good. All five of them across the board, good players. That is as difficult a challenge as you'll get. And the Titans were somewhat shorthanded without Danico Autry. And with Jeffrey Simmons, to me, still very, very clearly playing hurt.
One leg. He's on one leg.
And he's not nearly as effective. Because, I mean, look, if you are going to have success against this Eagles offensive line, it is against the guards who, Isaac Siumolu, I believe is how you pronounce his last name.
Sounds right, but I don't know. And
left guard Landon Dickerson are good players. They're fine. They're not all world guards. Like, they're okay. The Eagles have built their offensive line the way you would ideally build an offensive line. You have elite tackles on both sides. You have an elite center, and then you have guards that are good enough. And that's kind of what works for them. So I get that the matchup was not a great one, and I get that the Titans have injuries, but they got zero pass rush on Jalen Hurts. I mean, you talk about 41 dropbacks by PFF charting in this game, 8 pressures, 8. That was one of the lowest rates of the week. I believe it's third lowest among all of the games that happened last week.
It's got to be the lowest of the Titans season.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pass rush that had 77 pressures in a 2-week period against the Chiefs and I think it was the Texans. I think it was those 2 weeks back to back there. 77 pressures in those. No, I'm sorry, it's Chiefs Broncos. 77 pressures in those 2 games, 8 in this one. This is a huge step back, and it's not.
They just need 69 this week, and then it's the same rate, Mike. I mean,
and this isn't the situation where sometimes in the past they've had like the Steelers game a few years ago when they were both undefeated comes to mind, where Ben Roethlisberger was getting the ball out in like 2.1 seconds on average, and yes, there was no pass rush getting home because literally the ball was hitting his hands and he was throwing it to a wide open receiver because the Titans couldn't cover. Jalen Hurts was right middle of the pack as far as time to throw in this game. He was like 2.75 seconds. Half of his dropbacks were over 2.5 seconds, which means he's holding the ball. And we'll see some of these clips here where clearly he's holding and has plenty of time. to just leisurely throw the ball. But I mean, like, look, this is 7-on-7 looking stuff, right? Like how casual he is in the pocket. There's nobody within 5 yards of him.
I mean, that pocket is insane. How much room and comfort he has back there.
I mean, there's no pressure coming from any place, and this is with a blitz. The Titans are bringing, they've got 6 around the line of scrimmage now. Tart and Simmons are kind of, mush rushing for the most part, trying to drop off to make sure Hurts doesn't escape, which to me hurt them in this game. And I thought it was very clear that their game plan coming in was they watched the Green Bay game. They saw Hurts go nuts running. And we talked about this on the show last week, that they would have to stop Hurts from destroying them and keep him in the pocket. Well, guess what? They did that. They kept him in the pocket. He only rushed for 12 yards in this game, and he tore them up through the air.
Yep.
So at some point, I get that 35 points is a bad result here. At some point, you just have to tip your cap to the other team and say, hey, if you can run like that against the Packers, and then we turn around and contain you like we wanted to do, and you can still carve us up like this, then at some point you're just better.
And to be fair to the Titans, the Eagles' pass protection has looked similar to that all year long. I mean, Jalen Hurts, not to necessarily discount him as an NFL quarterback, but it is the reality that I don't think anybody is in a better position than him, and it's not really even close in terms of the comfortability he's given in the passing game, both in terms of the weapons he has downfield, but especially how much time and room he has in the pocket. I mean, like you said, it's like 7-on-7. He's just getting to pick and choose his targets, not even worry about maneuvering the pocket. He just gets to stand there.
And that's the other thing on that last clip. That catch by A.J. Brown was just ridiculous. I mean, he just reaches around Trey Avery, who is in great position, and makes a touchdown catch. So it's not only does he have all day to throw, and here's another one. This is the first touchdown to Devontae Smith, which, again, all day to throw. Like the Titans were rushing for, and here, especially early in the game, they were very clearly trying to make sure that their ends did not get further upfield than Hurts. And really, they didn't even want to get even with them. So when you see Bud Dupree over here, on the right-hand side of the screen, just kind of dancing around in front of the tackle. And I know a lot of people go crazy when they see that kind of stuff. Like,
he's clearly trying to contain, right?
Yeah,
he's not.
He is playing to contain Hurts. He is not playing to rush Hurts. And that was what the Titans clearly came into this game trying to do. Now, you would love to see them get more push in the middle of the pocket than what they do here. Because if you are going to contain, you would like to contain from a tighter pocket rather than a very wide, deep pocket, which is what Hurts gets here.
Hey, the interior 3 offensive linemen for the Eagles right here. Look at how little effort they're having to put in right here. Jason Kelce is just kind of like when your little siblings are doing the chores and your management just overwatching everything. He's not really having to do a whole lot right here. Jason
Kelce could have turned around and gone and sat on the Eagles logo on this play, and they would have had no problem getting this throw off.
No.
So it is, and look, I mean, I think Simmons is clearly hobbled, like we said, and some of the, Mario Edwards Jr. stuff is slowed the last couple weeks as he's faced better tackles. He's not having as much success either. And look, he's not as talented. Like there's a reason he was available, right? That he is not some uber talented guy who's going to have his way with Lane Johnson, who was his matchup in this game and is easily the best right tackle in the NFL still. Fantastic player. You just aren't going to win that matchup. Now, if you had Danico Autry, maybe things would be a little bit more interesting, especially on the interior, when they line them up in there. But you'll just see, like, this is over and over and over again. Again, here, they bring a blitz. Does not matter all day long. And this play actually ended up being ruled out of bounds. But the point of the matter is, look at the time that Hurts has and how flat this pocket is. I mean, there's just nobody close. I mean, even on this one, at least I think, is it Simmons over there that kind of pushes? No, it's Tart. Tart kind of pushes the right guard back a little bit. That's probably, or no, it's not even that. It's the end there getting a little bit of a push on Lane Johnson. So it's Rashad Weaver. So you get a little bit of a push there, but not anywhere close enough to really bother Hurts. And again, he's just as comfortable as can be sitting back there, chucking it deep. No pressure, no fear of a hit coming. When you don't get any pressure on an NFL quarterback, it makes it really easy, especially when you've got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith on the other end playing against two rookie corners for the majority of this game after Christian Fulton went down. Oh, man. It is this was a formula for disaster, really, for the Titans the whole way.
No doubt.
I mean, and there was nothing they could do about it, honestly.
Nope.
It was one of those deals where, given the players that the Titans had available, I understood the game plan. I looked at this and I don't put this one on coaching at all.
It's a simple mismatch is all it is. I mean, it is when when your Division 5A school in high school football catches one of the private schools who gets to recruit kids from out of state. And it's like, there is no solution here.
Right. Exactly. You're overwhelmed on the line of scrimmage on both sides. And it wasn't even close. I mean,
you need the other team to make mistakes, and credit to the Eagles, they didn't turn the ball over, they didn't do anything stupid. So
exactly, yeah, and they seem to be able to convert, at will and get these explosive plays at will. And it was a terrible matchup. The Eagles played almost perfect football, with the exception of like those crazy false starts. Was one
bizarre.
Of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
I tried to look it up during the game to see, because one of my friends texted me and he's like, do you know what the record is for the number of false starts in a half? So I tried to look it up, and this came from like a WikiHow article from 2018. So who knows if it's accurate, but the only thing I could find was the claim that the most was 7.5 in the NFL or in college. And the Eagles, I believe, had 8 or 9 in this first half. So strange.
Yeah. It was one of the oddest things that, I've ever seen from a team that is playing at home. Like I thought the broadcast did a good job of pointing that out, that like, it's not like this is a crowd noise thing or a new center or a new quarterback or like anything like that.
Well, maybe it was the Eagles fans around the owner's box being too loud on offense and defense.
Entirely possible. Possible. But yeah, I mean, this was just a terrible matchup for the Titans, given what their current personnel situation is. Again, like, this is the play. I wanted to use the wide angle shot of this one because it's
blocker charge, Mike. Blocker charge.
It is the question. And look, I feel for Christian Fulton in this situation because he has a right to the space that he is in, right? Like, so he does not have to get out of A.J. Brown's way.
As long as his feet are set. That was the argument, right?
That's right. So he is kind of running still. So I can see why they called illegal contact, kind of. It would be hard for them to call that pass interference on Brown, in my opinion, because look, he's just running his route and Fulton makes contact.
I think it should have been a no call, but either way, it wouldn't have mattered.
I kind of think so too, and it's kind of the double whammy here because this is obviously Fulton gets hurt on this play
again,
and again, the bigger issue. Look at Hurts in the pocket and how much time he has. I mean, he literally is just standing there bouncing, kind of pumps it once, decides he's going to wait for, because he sees the contact, and then he just throws the layup. I mean, this is training camp on air at this point kind of throw. It is a major issue when you cannot get any sort of pressure whatsoever. And I know I just keep saying that, but that is the theme of this game on that side of the ball. I mean, the Eagles did whatever they wanted in the passing game because they had all day to do it. And they had better players on the outside than the Titans had corners. So it was.
Now I'll say this, Mike. I mean, to be fair to the Titans, and I guess less to be fair and more to put this in perspective for Titans fans, because that is, and there's nothing more. We've talked about this with the Titans for years on the other end of the spectrum. There's nothing more defeating for teams that have played the Titans in the past when the Titans run game has been at its peak. Whenever a team is able to do something and you know that they're going to do it and it does not matter, you can't stop it. There's nothing more debilitating a feeling than that, especially as a fan, because there's just nothing you can do. It's a loss. There's no solution there. But the context here is the Titans won't run into another offensive line like that again until they perhaps make the Super Bowl. Like that's a one-of-one offensive line in the league right now.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I mean, the Titans' run defense held the Eagles to their lowest rushing total of the season in this game. It was also smart on the Eagles' part from a game plan and coaching standpoint to say, hey, we know the Titans' run defense is really good. We're not going to try to run the ball. We're just going to come out and we're going to throw the football. We're going to take what you give us. And they did take what the Titans gave them. They gave them those matchups and bet that Hurts would make a mistake or that they'd be able to get their hands on enough passes to maybe make this a contest. And the Eagles just outplayed them in that area. So smart game plan by the Eagles. I thought it was a smart game plan by the Titans defense too, but it just did not work. And sometimes it won't.
Let's look real quick. There's really only one other topic we want to get into here in film, but quickly, we have this clip of the Treylon Burks touchdown that is really the only bright spot of our film review today. But it is a really, really bright spot because it's a fantastic catch that I still can't wrap my head around how he kept this ball up against his body, despite maybe even being knocked unconscious. We don't know.
Yeah, it certainly appeared to me that he was out cold on the field.
Looked like it.
Right after this hit. So, yeah, unbelievable catch. And, just a phenomenal play by Burks here. And this was on a 3rd and short. I mean, they were like, this was 3rd and 3, I believe. So, I think the design was actually to try to get Hilliard in the flat here, and he's he's got him.
You could have gotten the first, yeah,
if he wants him. He's also got I think that's Hooper posting up, or maybe NWI. I think it's actually NWI that's posting up right over the. No, it is Hooper.
It's Hooper, yeah.
Yeah, posting up right at the 20-yard line. Probably could have fired that one in there if he wants to, but for whatever reason, he doesn't like those, and maybe he sees that safety ranging way over to that first side of the field that he looks at and knows that he's got the backside post to Burks. But I wanted to point out,
Yeah, I think the second he sees the safety sprint to the opposite end of the field, he's made that decision because he doesn't even look and consider the flat option. The second the ball is snapped, that safety turns a full sprint, and he's just bought in. And it's a great pass and throw, or pass and catch rather.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good decision by Tannehill, obviously, to come back and find that. But it's a great route by Burks more than anything, because he not only makes the catch at the end, but he wins that release at the line of scrimmage too, and gets that inside release to be able to win. And he's got leverage the whole way at that point. So he gets.
Mike, that's what stands out to me on this rep is, who else ran a great route on this? Nobody. He's the only guy beating man coverage here, and it's kind of a microcosm in this one play of how there's only been one. I think it was James Foster, our friend on Twitter earlier this week, that pointed out on this clip, the Titans have only had one receiver this year who can reliably beat man coverage. And you're seeing it right here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it was obvious after he went down that the Titans were no longer going to be able to win. Especially, look, the Eagles again. The Eagles are a really good team for a reason. They've got Bradbury, they've got Slay on the other side.
I think it's the best roster top to bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely to me the most complete roster in the NFL. So it is a really tough team to play against. Those outside corners are no joke. And expecting NWI and CJ Board and Robert Woods to be able to beat those guys is just unrealistic. So as soon as Burks went down, honestly, I was like, this game's over. And I think it was 7-7 at that point, right? So
yep.
I was like, they're going to struggle to move the ball now because they don't have anyone else who can beat these guys. And, Henry the running game hasn't been there, and it wasn't there again in this game. And I think that's in large part offensive line related, but also once Burks went down, especially, why would the Eagles not try to turn the screws on Derrick Henry? Because they have zero fear of NWI torching Darius Slay. That things that are not going to happen at all in any situation,
Yeah.
there's just no fear at that point. So why not barrel everybody downhill and contain Henry? That's the only way you could get beat at that point in the game. So it's one of those things. And that's what, with Burks going down again, you worry about how long he's going to be out, because obviously that looked like a pretty bad concussion as concussions go. I know they're all bad, but that one, appeared particularly tough. If he's out multiple weeks,
I'd be surprised if he's back I'd be surprised if he's back for the Chargers game.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't think he's going to play this week. I think
based on think about the Titans' concussion protocol this season, they've not had a player in concussion protocol return the same week. Oh, that's kind of been a league-wide trend with the new protocol. They've also had guys with really slight concussions, like Ben Jones, who I was talking to in the locker room after he got concussed, and none of us could tell that he was injured in any way, and then he missed 2 weeks. Now, you got to hope that Treylon Burks, as a much younger guy, is more resilient in that way.
Yeah,
but I'd be surprised if he doesn't miss 2 weeks, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably a realistic timeline to look at. I think that's kind of where the over/under would be like 2.5. So I think we'll see when he comes back. But the Titans desperately need him. I mean, they had Chig Okonkwo basically playing as a slot receiver for big chunks of this game in the second half. Which
Chig and Austin Hooper were their 2 leading receivers on the day.
Yeah. Which, I mean, those guys are good players, and I think they should be featured more anyways. But at some point, you've got to be able to win with other guys, besides your tight ends. And
yes.
The Titans don't have any receivers that can win right now. And like Robert Woods is an okay wide receiver at this point in his career, but he is not, a man beater. Like he is a guy that's going to settle down in his zone and make those kind of catches. And he's very much a complimentary guy, not a number one, not a guy that you can say third down, they're pressing us up, we know that he can win and make a play for us. That's not him. That's Burks. So,
yep. All right, 6 more clips. Welcome to Sackapalooza, boys and girls. Behind door number 1, we have a sack with a terrible route concept to pair with it.
Yeah, all of the sacks were certainly not just on the offensive line in this game. This one, almost all of them, I guess 5 of the 6 were on third downs. So it was very clear when the Eagles got the Titans in situations where they knew they were going to pass, they were able to pin their ears back and really tee off. But
except they're only sending 4 here. I mean, it's not even a blitz.
Yeah, and I have no idea. The 2 receivers at the top of the screen, which are Robert Woods and NWI here, they run the same route, like literally 3 yards away from each other.
That has to be a mistake.
Somebody's got to have made a mistake there, yeah, because it makes 0 sense for them to both be running the same route right next to each other, because you could essentially cover two guys with one right there. I mean, and that's what really creates this sack, is this ball has to be out quick. I mean, it's 3rd and 3, I believe, 3rd and 4, maybe. And
one of them, why is nobody in the middle of the field? One of them had to, I think the right thing, somebody should have been streaking across the middle here.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure who was
so crowded at the top of the screen there. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And honestly, like, if Woods just runs the outbreaker here, he's got it. Like, right. I just don't know. I don't know why both of them made this little, like a little whip route kind of. But you certainly wouldn't draw that up to both run it right next to each other like that.
Well, we can throw it in there, and odds are one of them's going to catch it because there's 2 right there.
Yeah, it's so I don't know if that's. I'm guessing that's not bad design. I'm guessing that's a bust by somebody. Possibly. But those are your 2 most veteran receivers on the team. Also, although we've seen Woods for sure run wrong routes before this season, so I don't know if maybe he just didn't catch an alert or something happened that caused confusion. But that one I would not actually put on the offensive line. That was poor route concept or poor mental error by one of the receivers.
All right, door number 2. Here's another questionable route concept to pair.
Yeah, this one, I don't know what's going on, like what the goal here was, because you see a lot of routes that are kind of Wood sits his route down way short of the marker at the bottom of the screen, right there at the 30. They've got to get to the 33. And then he just kind of runs around short of the marker, which he's open, but he's also short of the first down line. So I'm not sure where they actually were going.
Is this Chig here at the top of the screen releasing?
Yeah, so
Do you think maybe that was the intention and he just got a late release?
I'm not totally sure what
because he's open there if Tannehill doesn't have to vacate the pocket. I mean, you've got the first down.
He was. It looked like, I mean, he was chipping to help Daly at the start of the snap, obviously, but it looked like maybe he got more of that chip than he was supposed to, because he definitely looks late to me getting out of his break, because by the time Tannehill actually looks over to him, I mean, he's still like not even close to turning around and looking for the ball. So the timing's off, it just, everything looks off on this play, and there's nobody open. So this is another one where I don't think it's on the offensive line necessarily. Actually, Petit Frere does a fantastic job picking up a stunt here with Reddick, and I believe that's Fletcher Cox. So really good job by him on this play. But don't love the route concept. Hooper's just kind of like running aimlessly, it looks like. I mean, sometimes it's hard for me to see exactly what they're going for with certain play calls. And this is one of them where I'm just like, I'm not sure I'm totally following what they're trying to do here.
Mike, I'm pretty confident this is a Chig thing, because look at Tannehill's eyes and the timing of it. I think this is a Chig being late thing, because first of all, on the chip here, he gets blown up a little bit and pushed back 2 yards.
Yeah.
And then you look at Tannehill's head. He looks to the bottom of your screen first, and then he looks over in the direction of Chig here. He turns his head that direction, and Chig is not there, not even close to breaking in the route.
Yeah. And really, it almost looks like even if his landmark was where he ended up breaking, that he needs to have a sense of timing, and that, hey, I got knocked off of my spot here.
Break it off early.
I need to break it off early and then see if I can pick it up with my legs after the fact. Because honestly, if he breaks it off early, he's certainly open.
He's the yards after catch god on this team. Surely he can pick up a couple after he catches it. Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm thinking too. So,
all right, door number 3 here. Did you have anything else on that one?
No, that's really it. It was, to me, just a situation where a late release probably screwed him on that one.
All right, door number 3 is you labeled this one as probably on Tannehill. Talk us through why you think this is his fault, besides just holding onto the ball for too long.
Yeah, and this one is actually somewhat interesting, because after hearing Todd Downing speak today, I'm fairly certain that this one was a error on CJ Board's part, because he mentioned they were talking about the red zone opportunity, and this is the one red zone opportunity that they got in this game. And he mentioned, obviously the false start by Dennis Daly that preceded this. But then he said, and then we've got a new guy in a spot that he hasn't really played before, and you have a mistake. So obviously he's not talking about Dennis Daly, who, ultimately gets beat for the sack. Although I know Vrabel right after the game basically said, look, he pushes Josh Sweat, 10 yards deep here. If you look, they're at the 13. Yeah, he's 10 yards deep. Usually you want your quarterback to stay in, no deeper than about 8 yards for that reason, because you don't want guys to just be able to run the loop around these tackles and make sacks. So Tannehill's probably sitting a little bit deeper than he should, but that is in part because the interior of that pocket is giving up ground. And then also at the top of the screen here, you've got Board, who's the middle of the 3 receivers to the top. And he's running, it looks like, again, the exact same route as Nick Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm guessing he either needs to clear out quicker or he's doing something else entirely on that concept. But it sounded to me like Todd Downing basically said Board ran the wrong route here. And honestly, if you look at NWI, he's open. I mean, he's there. But I think Board being close kind of muddies the read for Tannehill a little bit. Because he's kind of got a defender in the area that can break down right there.
Yep.
And so I think that ended up throwing off Tannehill's read and making him squeeze the ball and hold it here and take the sack ultimately. Because it's not a terrible play right there from the offensive line. It's not terrible pass protection, but ultimately still results in a sack. We will get to some really bad offensive line play after this point, though.
I'm about to say, because we're only halfway through the sacks here. We got door number 4 now. This is labeled by you multiple offensive line issues. So let's talk about them.
Yeah, absolutely. So here you've got a couple things going on, and it is a true meet at the quarterback situation here with Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat. And honestly, like I don't know how Nicholas Petit-Frere gets beat this bad. We'll start with him. He's on the left side of the screen here by Sweat, because Sweat starts his move really working against Nate Davis. And Petit-Frere's just kind of picking him up, and he still manages to beat Petit-Frere almost clean here. So
Sweat hit them both with the old double swim.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of hits both with the same move and wins. Like, and obviously Davis is passing him off because he sees him going outside. But then on the other side, of course, you got our guy Dennis Daly combining with Aaron Brewer. And honestly, this one's not probably on Daly so much as it is Brewer, because Brewer gives up penetration to Hargrave. And at that point, like, they're running a twist. This is a design twist. Hargrave is penetrating. Reddick is looping. And as soon as Brewer gives up that deep penetration to Hargrave, who's a great player, like, that's a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But as soon as he gives that up,
6-lane superhighway for the swim, or for the twist.
Yeah, Daly has nowhere to go because he is getting picked off, and there's a direct line straight to the quarterback for Reddick there. So multiple failures on this one, obviously. I think Fletcher Cox gets pretty good penetration. I mean, they are all over Tannehill, and they're all over him pretty quickly here. I mean,
I'm sitting here trying to find an offensive lineman who won, and I'm failing to do so.
It's the exact opposite of what the Jalen Hurts pockets looked like, right? Like,
yes.
You think about how, like, flat and, like, just no penetration we saw on all those clips, and then you turn around and you see this, and it just looks
suddenly
like
Tannehill's in the trash compactor on the Death Star, and the walls are closing in immediately.
Yeah,
all right, door number 5 here. This one is labeled play action crosser, not there. So this is a maybe a bit of a coverage sack here, or
yeah. So it's a combination of the two. I think first, Nate Davis gets beat by, I think it's Ndamukong Suh, and I can't tell if it's Davis that gets beat or if it's Petit-Frere who should have gotten a piece of Suh here. I wasn't entirely sure on what the rules should have been there. My guess is it should have been Petit-Frere, but either way, nobody really blocks him, and so he's in the backfield quickly. And then Chig gets blown up by Brandon Graham. And so the blocking is not great. However, this is a quick play-action glance throw, which the Titans have run a million times over the past 4 years. And usually it is play action, hit your back step, ball is out to this crosser that NWI is running. NWI is at the top of the screen. He's working against Bradbury. But two things here. This play used to be the bread and butter play with A.J. Brown. This was the play that A.J. Brown basically made his, like, staple play. They would hit him on this crosser. He'd break a million tackles, and then he'd run for a touchdown.
Yep.
They're trying to run it with NWI against a good corner, and the corner is all over it. I mean, Bradbury doesn't need the help, but the help is there, and that is indicative of how teams have started to play the Titans. They know where they're trying to go with these plays. They know what these concepts look like, and this is something that gets drilled into the defense day after day during Titans week.
Well, Mike, they didn't just learn this either. They knew when the Titans had AJ, it didn't matter. Back to the point, it's nice when you can do things well that you do well, and the other team knows, and it does not matter. The Titans aren't in that. They're not in that boat really anywhere right now.
Yeah. So this is the way teams are playing this route concept now. But yeah, this is ultimately NWI does not win the route. So nobody's open. It's a 2-man route concept. So Woods is double covered deep. NWI gets swallowed up by Bradbury. So what are you gonna do? Like you're gonna take the sack whether the offensive line gave up quick pressure or not, and they did give up quick pressure. So it's kind of you lose on both ends on that play.
All right, and finally, behind door number 6, we got a double tackle whiff here, the double whammy on both ends of the line.
This one, I for the life of me cannot figure out what Nicholas Petit-Frere is doing. Like he's kick sliding like into oblivion. It's like he's broken.
He's glitching. Something. Yeah, it's a Madden glitch. This is bizarre. I've not seen this week.
Like I mean, he doesn't even really put a move on him. He just runs right by him.
It's like an old vaudeville show, and the guy's falling, slipping over the banana peel, but in one place, just running. And
yeah, I have no idea what's going on there. And then on the other side, of course, you've also got Daly getting beat inside with chip help for like the millionth time this season, and it drives me crazy every time I see it because every time you have chip help as an offensive tackle, you cannot get beat inside. That is the one place you cannot get beat. And he does it over and over and over again, and it drives me nuts.
It's like he doesn't between the huddle and getting to the line, he forgets that he has chip help because he looks like he's playing it without help.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's setting wide here. I mean, he's really getting out there, and like I get Josh Sweat's a really good athlete and all that, but you've got help. You've got help. You cannot get beat inside. So he gets beat inside, of course. And so this is really just like a microcosm of what the Titans have dealt with ever since Taylor Lewan went down, basically. And it is both tackles are problems. Now, I still think you could live with it. Like if Lewan was playing like he did for most of the back half of last season when he was actually like somewhat healthy. I think you could probably live with Nicholas Petit-Frere being what he is, which is, a guy that is not perfect, but you would probably be chip helping Petit-Frere and not the left tackle, right? Like, so that's your initial problem is that most of the time when the Titans are helping a tackle right now, it's Daly, it's not Petit-Frere, and your rookie right tackle probably needs help. I mean, that is nine times out of 10, you're going to help your rookie tackle. You're going to leave your veteran, to win one-on-one matchups. And the Titans don't have either tackle that is consistently enough winning one-on-one matchups. And that's before you even get into, Aaron Brewer, who has his own pass protection issues, and the fact that the pocket is continuously being pushed back. Like they don't ever set, again, go watch those clips, rewind a little bit, watch those clips with Jalen Hurts, see what that pocket looks like. That is how it is supposed to be. It is not supposed to be this crumbling mess of a thing that we see too often with the Titans. I thought the pass protection was actually mostly fine in the first half, but the further and further they got into this game, the more it crumbled. And obviously, like the Eagles knew at that point that the Titans were going to have to throw the ball to try to get back into it. And that's not their forte, getting into that drop back passing game. But still, this is why the Titans can't play that way. This is why the Titans are, playing with one hand tied behind their back half the time, because they don't have this option. They have one way that they can play, one way that they can win. And we'll talk about why that is after the break with our Jon Robinson discussion.
Yeah, so we have a lot more to talk about this week. I think we have more to talk about behind the paywall than maybe we ever have this year. So a ton of show left. But unfortunately, for those of you that are not Broadway insiders, this is the end of the road for you. Go over to BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Get a subscription with a Broadway Insider Pass, just 99 cents your first month when you use code INSIDER. And then beyond that, just the price of a cup of coffee each month. You get the entirety of the Mike Herndon Show in its video form on YouTube. You can also listen as well. You get all of our premium articles, which we're writing more and more of each and every day. Articles from people like myself and Zach Lyons and Justin Mello, among others. There's some early access articles. If you like Rob Greenlaw's terrible Twitter takes, which this week's edition, because of all the news this week, had 30 some odd tweets in there. It was stocked full of nonsense and treachery. And so it's fantastic. You get that in early access form as well. You also get access to a couple of our fantasy leagues that we do year round, different fantasy leagues and games that you can be a part of. All a ton of fun. Just 99 cents for your first month when you sign up with code INSIDER at BroadwaySportsMedia.com, or when you use code ANNUAL for your annual pass. To hear the rest of this show, you got to have one. And in the rest of the show today, we've got our, as always, Moneymaker Mike segment, where we're going to have some bets for this week and make some money. And then the Mike Drop segment, where Mike gives us his hottest take of the week, which is always a good time. We're also, of course, going to be talking about Titans Jaguars this weekend in what is, I think we can agree, Mike, this is the most important game left on the Titans schedule by far.
100%.
And so that's going to be a big one. Plenty to discuss there. Then, of course, Jon Robinson this week. We've got a ton to discuss kind of in the aftermath. We'll pick up the pieces on that and see where the Titans go long-term at the GM position and what the organization has in mind for this franchise going forward. All that discussion behind the paywall. You can access it if you go right now and become an insider today. Again, code INSIDER for 99 cents on your first month, or code ANNUAL for $20 off the annual pass. Get a whole year for just $49.99. Helps us keep the lights on, and we appreciate you supporting our local business and local coverage of your favorite teams. Until then, we'll talk to you next week.